Hello, what's going on?
You know, it's going. It's going. It's a little cold here in LA, but it's going.
Yeah, I heard. I'm in Munich and it's the same weather here, which I did not expect. It's the same weather here that it is there right now.
Isn't it always cold there though in Munich?
No, it's cold in the winter. It's really cold in the winter. That's why I'm running home.
Honestly, I love the winter, especially since it's almost Christmas time. It's my favorite time of year. And my brother and sister-in-law are about to be induced to have our first baby for the family. So it's like a Christmas present. I'm so excited.
Congratulations, Auntie
Thank you.
Lo.
I know, I'm so excited. Sorry, I had to throw that in there, but yeah, I'm just excited to go home for the holidays.
Lauren Sesselmann, thank you and welcome to Rebuilding the Beast.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah.
That's funny.
You what's up, Sess Money? You actually have heard about this podcast before I even started working on it or anything. I've had this dream in my head for a long time of telling people stories. And we've become friends and have been through this whole quarantine together too. How's it been for you? This whole thing is crazy for everybody. What's it been like for you during this time?
It definitely plays with your mind a lot because there's so much back and forth and you don't really know what's going to happen and what to expect. And I think in the beginning, there was so much uncertainty and everyone was so scared. And I think that's kind of faltered off a little bit, but there's still so much uncertainty. Like I'm planning for next year, but I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do half the stuff I'm going to be planning, which is mostly like hands-on work and with working with kids and stuff like that. So it's definitely been hard on the mind, especially for the most part. I was alone during quarantine. My roommate was back in Nashville. So usually I'm okay being alone, but I was going through a lot, as you know, with concussions, and I'm sure we'll get into that. And it just kind of plays tricks on you because you can't really go and do anything or see anyone because we didn't really know what was going on. But there are some pluses that came out of it. I think it's given a lot of time for people to reflect and sit back and really realize a lot of things about themselves and who they are and the people that they want in their life, the things that they want to do for work. Like I completely did a 180. Now I'm doing the things I absolutely love. I just started this week. So I'm really happy with that. So I'm finally put the push on that and I'm proud of myself for that. But then also it's given a chance for me personally as an athlete to connect to my audience a little bit more, as well as I've seen you do a lot. So, it's been really hard, but there has been a lot of pros coming out of it. So
this is one of my favorite things about you. No matter what's going on, you always find a way to focus on the positive things too. And that's like, man, it's awesome. Yeah, no, you have to, or else you lose. This is kind of what this podcast is about, is this idea that there are challenges and there are things that we all face.
Mm-hmm.
But there is something to work for. There is a way to come out of it, and you have to focus on the positives if you're going to do that. How did you become this person that was optimistic and still try to find a way to stay positive?
Well, so I grew up in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Go Pack, go! And you know what? I just was very fortunate to grow up with a family that was very loving and kind and really helped me a lot. And they just spread love and positivity. Like that's just how I grew up. You always see it on my Instagram and stuff. I'm always trying to spread love because I think it's just so important and so vital, especially with what's going on in our world right now. But I have an amazing family. I have Ernie and Debbie. Shout out to Ernie and Debbie. Those are my parents. And how perfect are those two names to go together? And then we have EJ and Aaron. And then I have my sister-in-law, Mary Beth, and then the little one is coming. And I don't know her name yet, but it's a girl. So I'm going to spoil her. I already bought little baby Jordans. But yeah, I think it's just also, this is just who I am. And, I read a lot of books. I read, I kind of just always, I grew up in the Catholic Church too. I know religion is a touchy subject for a lot of people, but for me, it really just made me realize like every morning waking up with a great personality, a start to the day. And also I think it was my mindset going into playing soccer and playing sports. You kind of have to have that mindset where no matter what happens, you're going to push through and you're going to work for it. And you have to remain positive, because if you don't, that's when you could get cut or you could lose your position or something could happen. So I think just instilling that mindset every day is very, very important, no matter what you do in life.
That's beautiful. See, you've had a lot of amazing successes in your career. You know, one of them is winning a bronze medal in the Olympics, which we'll get into all that. Yeah, that's a huge deal. As far as I know, there've been some ups and downs. Can you walk me through your journey so far,
Yeah.
being the stud that you are?
Yeah. So I grew up in Green Bay, as I said. And then, I think it was really hard kind of navigating what to do next with my career, because soccer and sports was always a passion of mine. So I think that's why I help the kids nowadays. Well, I know we'll get into that probably later, but with mentorship, because I never had anybody to like look up to. I kind of just figured it out on my own, luckily. And I went to play, get a scholarship at Purdue University, which was my main goal, was to get a D1 scholarship. And
You're not just going to skip over being a champion. Did you win a state championship in basketball in high school?
oh my gosh, yeah. Well, first of all, it was a
Wow.
well, yeah, yeah. I mean, I usually throw that in everywhere, but I don't know if we were just focusing on one thing. But yeah, actually, basketball was my first passion. I started that when I was 5. My dad was a basketball player. Like, it's just always been my favorite sport. And then soccer kind of took over when I was around 11 years old, and there was more opportunity for me in soccer. Yeah, I really wanted to play both, but you could only go pro in one, so I chose soccer. And yeah, so we were 28-0 state champs my senior year.
Yeah.
I was on varsity every year, so that was fun. That was just awesome, just to bring that to our school, and I'll never forget those memories and all the things. So I still remember so much of all my concussions. I remember those memories, which is crazy, so that's good.
It's it's
um
it's so it's actually really cool because I never played high school ball. So here, no, I didn't play high school ball. So when that part for me is really cool because of all the different successes I've had, I still think like I wonder what it would be like if I ever played with my high school friend.
well, because you came from Nigeria around that time. That's right, right?
I did,
And
but I
that's why.
also wasn't good enough to play in high school because they cut me.
Whatever. Well, now look at you now. So you can be like,
That's what this podcast is about, right? It's about the idea that you go through tough times like that where people tell you you're not good enough to play, but still I played in the NBA. So it's just
mhm,
you kind of have to take your lumps and
yeah.
then figure out how to move forward. There's always a way to move forward.
Yeah. And I mean, I've had definitely a lot of downs in my career, but the ups always outweigh everything. And that's what I have to tell myself every day. So after a really successful college career, and high school basketball career, my goal was always as a child to play in the pros or play in the Olympics and World Cup. Watching the 99ers, they really gave us a lot of hope. And so I was like, Mom, Dad, I want to do that. And my dad was like my coach and everything. He was a basketball coach. He was always the one out there with, his little stopwatch, timing me. I owe a lot to that man. He took me everywhere, drove me everywhere. My mom was always working, but she was always there when she could. And then my brothers, obviously they were goalies. So I was a forward at the time. So I would
Well, they play
always,
soccer too.
yeah, they were beasts. They should have went and played pro, but they like to party a little bit more than I did. So they chose that. They chose fun over being hardcore. So um but yeah, they helped me a lot. I mean, being goalies, and because I was a forward for a long time. And then I went into college and crushed it. Like, we had an amazing college career. We really, our class kind of put Purdue a lot on the map, and we became like top 10, and now the girls are just crushing it every year there. So I'll never forget those memories. I'm still close to those girls. Every so, and I get to see their families and watch them grow, and just watch the program grow from where it has been. It's just pretty awesome. So I met the college coach when I was doing ODP. They don't really do ODP as much
What is
anymore, which is like the Olympic Development Program. So it's kind of like how the steps to get to like the national, regional, national. That's how you get recognized. And that's pretty much how I got recognized for college. My coach was there, and then coming out of college, the league had just folded. So it was originally called the WUSA. That's with Mia Hamm's generation. And right before I was about to graduate, it went under, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And you don't really hear about like opportunities overseas. That really wasn't like a thing back then. Like just
Wait,
the people that were
before you even
overseas.
get there, like, did you know going into college? At what point do you realize that you want to go pro?
I mean, I wanted to in high school. I got made fun of so much in high school for working so hard. I was kind of a loner. I didn't really have a lot of friends. I just kind of like focused. And, everyone was partying and doing their thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like everyone has their own journeys. And I mean, kind of wish I would have partied a little bit more because, oh,
But you're the
but
cool one now, though.
yeah, I'm the cool one. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you
That's
got all the friends
right.
now. So
Right. It's like to tell myself that. But yeah, I was just always a hard worker. So people are like, why are you working so hard? You're never gonna get there. Like no one's ever done that out of here and blah 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 and all this stuff. So I'm like, whatever, watch me. Like it's my dream. And then I made it true. And then they were all kind of like, oh Lauren, hi, like wants to be your friend again, afterwards. It's funny how that works.
you have
Obviously, I'm
doubts.
always so gracious, but yeah, so I went to college and then the league had folded. That was so I went and I worked for IBM. So my dad worked for IBM, my brother worked for IBM. So let's go sell some computers. So I did that for like a year, but I kept playing like semi-pro just in case because there was talks that hey, maybe a new league would come back. So I was like, okay, cool. So I kept working hard. So I would get up super early, workout. I would go to work all day and then go and play at a team, and secretly I had to do that because technically I wasn't supposed to when I was doing this job because I was kind of traveling a little bit because it was kind of remote. But I did it and then I left, on a good note with them. They're like, anytime you want to come back, come back. And I went to the combine and I got drafted and it was the coolest thing in the world just to be like to hear your name. I'm like sitting there. It's like the longest process ever, but I'm like sitting there and I'm like, is my name gonna get called? And my name got called right before Brandy Chastain. And obviously now everyone knows who Brandy Chastain is. Like she was one of my idols and it just felt so cool to have your name called.
What?
And
How does the so? But tell me about the process, the draft process. How many picks are there? What is the?
actually I don't remember how many picks that time because at the time I think we only started with the end or it was the WPS. I have to say that because now it's called the NWSL. There's been so many changes. So just so everyone that's listening, it was the WPS, Women's Professional Soccer League, and now it's the NWSL. So it was that for 3 years, and then the NWSL came. So yeah, I got drafted by Chicago, but I ended up being traded to Jersey. I don't really know how many draft picks they had because I think we only had 6 teams, I want to say 6 or 8 teams, I can't remember. And then I got drafted to Jersey where we won the championship, which was so cool. But guess what? I only played 1 minute that year. So I went from like being a super stud on like every team to playing 1 minute. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not meant for the pros. It's just like I never got the opportunity to showcase myself, which you know what it's like in the pros.
That's what I
That
want
chance,
to.
get
This is
your chance.
what I want to hear about. I want to
Yeah.
hear this
So
part.
when you get that chance is when you really have to capitalize on it. So my first 3 years in the pros, I was kind of like traded after the Jersey to Atlanta because Atlanta came into the league the following year, which by the way, Atlanta's the coolest place to play. I loved playing there. And I played a little bit more, but not much. And I was like, maybe this isn't the path for me. And I would call my dad every day. I'm like, maybe, I don't think I'm ever going to get a chance, And then I remember went through a lot of coaching changes. And then we had this guy come in named James Galanis, which was Carly Lloyd's coach that she always talks about. And he was amazing. He changed our program around and he basically was like, look, if you're working hard, I'm going to give you a chance. Because there would be a lot of superstars that were fake hurt and then they would be okay for the game. They just weren't being the true professional. And then there was a lot of girls who were working their butts off day in and day and just to get 1 minute. And so I'm forever indebted to James Galanis for giving the opportunity to me to actually play a little bit. But this is when I was a forward. And he always was so motivational and I was like, okay, I can do this, but I just wasn't feeling like I really fit and I really belonged. And I didn't really know what was going to happen with my career because the league pretty much folded that year. And I was like,
While you were
"Maybe."
playing.
Yeah. And so that summer before it folded, I remember crying to my dad. I'm like, look, like this isn't for me anymore. Like I tried it. It's been 3 years. I'm like, because we don't make any money. We don't make anything.
So
And my
that's what
dad's like,
we don't know about. We want to. I love to know
yeah.
more about that part. What is it like? How do you make money? Well, first off, what is it like to deal with that uncertainty of a league that could shut down at any moment while you're playing and you're working hard for this dream for this game that you love?
I mean, it sucks, honestly. It's nobody knew what was going to happen, but I just wanted to say that I did it, that I made it there, that above all the odds and everything against me and everyone telling me that I wasn't going to do it, I did it. I was there even for 3 years, even if I played minimal minutes. A select number of people, only 18 people get chosen per team, so the fact that I even made it that far should have been good enough. But at the same time, as an athlete, it's ingrained in us to be like, that's never good enough.
Yeah.
And you always want more and you want to be the best. And I'm like, no, I want to make the national team and blah, blah, blah. Well, first I needed to play. But I remember it was like a year before that or 2 years before that. My dad's from Canada and I knew that I could be a dual citizen, but I didn't know how that all kind of worked. And if your parent or grandparent is from a different country, you can get your dual citizenship and you can play for that national team. And I grew up with the US system and stuff like that. But I always grew up watching Canada because basically Wisconsin, I feel like, is Canada. We're very Yooperish, so we just kind of like, I claim Canadian, and we would always go camping up there and stuff like that. So, and you go where opportunity is and you just want a chance. And I always respected the Canadian team. Their style of play really fit my style of play. And I was like, I would write to them all the time. I probably was really annoying, but I'd be like, hey, this is my season, my schedule. Can you watch me? I would love just an opportunity to come up for one camp just to show you what I can do, or just talk to you on the phone. And it was like crickets, crickets, crickets. But I never gave up. I kept being like, okay, I'm with this team this year. Like, watch this game. I wasn't playing much, so who knows if you're ever going to get that opportunity. But that summer, like literally remember getting off the phone with my dad, bawling my eyes out, being like, this is my last season. I'm done. I can't do it. Like, I was so depressed. And so I was just mad at myself because you work so hard for something. And when it doesn't happen, it's just like a kick in the butt. And you're like, I wasn't good enough. You feel like a failure. Nobody ever wants to feel like a failure. And I got a call. It was 2011, summer of 2011. I get a call and it says, hey, because they had just lost in the World Cup and they changed over the coaching staff. And the new coach was like, I want new players. We're going to start from scratch. We're going to rebuild this program. What do we got? I got that email and my jaw dropped to the floor. I was like, oh my gosh.
You feel like you would have got that email though if you weren't putting that work in, as in like sending them all the time.
Oh, no. They probably would have just let it go because I know they get emails like that all the time from people being like, I'm good enough to be there. But like, who's going to take the time, unless you're a good coach, to actually go through and see if those people are good enough, So John Herdman, I owe a lot to him. He came in and completely transformed our program. I got the email. It says, hey, we want you to come in for this camp. I think it was in the end of August or beginning of September. It was around there. And or beginning of August. And so I go into camp. First of all, I'm like starstruck from all these players I grew up watching play. Even though they're like the same age as me, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so cool, And then you're next to Christine Sinclair and you're like, don't mess up. Don't mess up. Well, so the first day the coach pulls me aside. I'm like, look, he's gonna send me home right away. Like, I just, you're scared out of your mind. He goes, so you're left-footed, you're tall, you're strong, and you're really good in the air. We're gonna put you at left back. We need a left back. Do you think you can do it?
At this point, you were forward.
Yeah. And first of all, it's very hard to convert to a defender because let's be honest, most forwards don't play defense. And also the timing and like learning that position outside, I think is the hardest position to play. Everyone's like defense is so easy until they actually go back and they play it, because you mess up, it's on you. And we'll get to that later because that has happened to me. And so I was like, sure, I'll try it. And I remember just being like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Just listen to the person next to you. Just go for it. Just run and see what happens. And I scored like this upper 90 shot from like midfield. And he's like, okay. And then I was like, I just grasped it. Like I was always one of those forwards that was scrappy anyways, and like always like trying to win the ball back once I lost it. And that's what I always try to tell my kids. I'm like, if you're a forward, win the ball, win the ball, win the ball. Don't be lazy. And so I think he just saw that scrappiness in me. And so he pulls me aside and he's like, so we're playing the USA in 4 days. You're going to start at left back. And I was like, excuse me?
That was, wait, he gave you 4 days to.
Yeah, to get acclimated and to learn how to play defense. And luckily, basketball, I will have to say, basketball is what made me the defender. And honestly, it saved my butt, because if you ever watch how I play like a basketball player, and I just understand the game. I was the one that was always at the top of the key to steal the ball. So I just got it naturally. So luckily, but
Lockdown.
what? Yeah. So
Lockdown, Sess.
yeah. So I wasn't the most technical player, but I was good at using my body, and I was smart with players. Like I knew how to read players. So I always tell them, you're always stronger at some things than other things. And I always tell my kids, like, look, if you're not the most technical, learn how to use your body, learn how to read players, watch game film, tactically learn the game, and you'll be surprised, because everyone's so like technical, but that doesn't always transcribe onto the field. And so, yeah, from there on out, I became a starter, and we won a gold medal that just like 1 month later in the Pan American Games, which was huge for us. Never won a medal, so we won a gold medal, and then it was 2012 Olympic year.
But is that a boost, ego boost, confidence boost for you guys that we can do this?
Yeah, because they had just went from like losing pretty much every game in the World Cup that summer, and just kind of the team being in shambles in a way, because all new coaching staff, that's not easy. You know what it's like when those kind of things happen and change. And there was a lot of changes within the team, a lot of player changes, new things coming in, more competition coming in, because he wanted to raise the bar. And people, it's very cutthroat. It's so cutthroat. I mean, you got to be on your A game every single day with a national team. I mean, even in the pros, you have to be on your A game every day or you're gone. So, and you have to be a true professional. And so, yeah, that after winning that, we were just like, oh my gosh, we are good enough. We can do this. And then we rose in the rankings, and then we qualified a couple months later. We just had the best, most amazing experience. I can't even describe to you. We were there for a few weeks. I got to meet so many idols, like, Neymar. And then I got to see like Usain Bolt. I mean, the Olympic Village in itself was so crazy.
I've heard stories.
Yeah, all the stories you guys hear. I know you guys want to hear all the stories, and they're pretty much true, but I didn't partake in anything. Because soccer isn't in the village. Soccer isn't in the village because we travel to stadiums. So yes, no juicy intel there. But yes, I mean,
questions, but we're gonna keep it.
Yeah, we'll keep it PG, okay?
But what is it? Because I'm really excited. Next year, I'm on the roster for the Nigerian team for the Olympics.
Woo! I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, thank you. And tell me what to expect. Tell me what that experience is, because everybody I know, I had teammates who played in the last two Olympics, and they came back just reeling, saying it's all the best athletes, everybody that you've seen everywhere for every sport is here, the best of the best. It's like, as good as you are at your sport, you're still like, wow, this is that person. This is
in awe and shell shocked by, like, you pinch yourself every day. You're like, can I believe, like, you can't believe that you're here. Like, is this real life? I mean, I honestly could cry about it right now, because that's how cool it was, and like just like everything it took to get there, and people didn't say like you were good enough and stuff like that. So it's so cool. And to
That's
have my
important.
family, yeah, like to have my family there every step of the way was so special. To play in Wembley, to play in Old Trafford. I mean, you grew up watching these guys in the EPL that were your idols, and you're sharing a field with them, and you're like, whoa. But and to see the flag rise and to get a medal was such a cool experience, even though we should have been in the gold medal match, but we won't go into that because it's still talked about today, what happened with that game.
No,
But yeah,
it's your journey though. Like if you at some point you got to think back and say, well, I was working at IBM and still training because I had this
yeah,
dream to play pro soccer. While I was playing pro, the league could have been canceled at any moment, but I
yeah.
still kept emailing
Well,
and
it did go under.
see, and you go through
Luckily
all
we
these different
had
challenges.
luckily we had the Olympics and I was on the national team to keep playing, but what happens with the other players? So it's kind of a rough time in the soccer world.
But I mean, you were a part of your own like destiny too, though, because you kept emailing, you kept doing all these little things, and that's kind of what this whole thing is about: is people understanding. I had a conversation yesterday when we were talking about this. It's luck favors the prepared man,
Ooh, I
and
love that.
yeah, and it's this idea. Is Steve Kerr told me this yesterday on his own podcast, and we're
Love
talking
him.
about how it's this
One of my
idea.
favorite players.
Is this idea that you yes yes people have these amazing stories and they've accomplished these great things, but there's little moments of challenges of adversity where they make decisions. It's like, no, I can't stop, I can't quit, I got to keep going. And later on you look back and say, wow, I did this amazing thing. But it's like those little moments of doubt,
Uh-huh.
that really that I want to touch on. It's like, man, like,
Yeah, I mean, I think you have those a lot. I think I had them more before I joined the team, and then when I got injured, probably when I was in that phase from 2011 to 2012, 2013, I was like on cloud nine, like all the pieces just kind of fell together and I was just like on a roll and I was crushing it. And then everybody wanted to have me on their team in the NWSL and I got drafted. And it was just like, it felt cool to be like such a wanted athlete and just like know that like all that hard work was finally recognized because people finally saw you and got a chance to see what you could really do. And a lot of coaches that cut me apologized to me after they saw me make the national team and what I could do. And like for me, I was like so grateful to them for saying that. They didn't have to. I mean, it's all part of the game. But they like came up and they would be like, I'm proud of you. And like, I should have never let you go. And like, just to see what you've done, like, congratulations. And I was kind of like, like, like that felt really good. And then I think, you know, heading into, you go into your 2015 when it's in a World Cup year. Well, let's start in 2014 when I went into my injury. I'm like at the top of my game on cloud nine, as I say. And then we are in Cyprus and wham bam, first day, knee blows out. And I'm like, what? Like literally the year before the World Cup is the biggest thing that a soccer player can do. And I just wanted to accomplish everything. I wanted to play in a Pan American game. I wanted to play in the Olympics and I wanted to play in a World Cup. And then I could have been like satisfied because I didn't join the national team till I was 26, which is really old for a player. So I was very fortunate to get the opportunity. And then I blew my knee out and it was the worst time ever besides with what happened at the World Cup.
what are you saying to
Because
yourself when you get injured? What are the things that you're facing right now?
my coach started bawling his eyes out because he knew that I was at the top of my game, and he was like, I need you. And I've never had a coach being like, really like, I need you, except for the youth and in college. And so it felt good. But then I'm like, now I feel like I'm letting my teammates down because all that work and preparation that we did to make this squad what it was, who knows what's going to happen, because you hear all those stories like, she's never going to come back. She's never going to be the same. She's old when this happens. And
You're 26.
exactly, daunting. It's daunting. And they're like, well, she's a woman, hormones, like everything, it's going to be worse for them. If she was a guy, she'd probably recover faster. And like, just everyone kept saying like, your career's over. Good job though. And I'm like, wow, guys, like positive reinforcement, luckily my teammates and coaches were so amazing. And the training staff were so amazing that it helped me. If without them, it would have been a disaster, because I didn't really have a lot of friends outside of soccer, because my world was soccer. And those were my sisters. And that was my family. And then my family they were always there for me, but they didn't understand. My mom was like, well, if this was your last chance, like at least you got to do it. And I'm like, she wasn't an athlete. It's like the mindset. They just don't understand. I'm like, I love you, Mom. And she's like, well, you had an amazing career. Like, just think of it that way. And I'm like, I love you, Mom, but you don't get it,
Nobody can get the world.
Nobody can get it. It was very lonely. It was very dark. I was very depressed, but I had something to look forward to, which was the World Cup and getting back for that. So I think that was like my daily motivation. And, I would just surround myself with so much positivity, and music was my like outlet, and just being like, no, I'm coming back and I'm going to be the biggest badass. Can I say badass in here? So no, sorry.
Yeah. What was the injury?
I'm going to be the biggest badass ever. Yeah. And I'm going to prove everybody wrong. And, my recovery process was terrible. I had to basically, after 6 or 7 months, when they said I could start running, I had to relearn how to run, because when I was with the other team, my pro team, they kind of pushed me too quickly. And I said, no, don't push me. Like, I got to listen to the national team. And he's like, oh, you're running right. But I could feel it was wrong. And so when I got with the national team, she's like, we have to relearn how to run, basically, because you're like this, you're going to get completely injured again. And I was
hold on. What was your injury in the first place?
ACL. Oh, sorry. I thought I'm like talking to you like I'm just talking to Fez instead of on this podcast. Sorry. It was ACL.
This is what it is. Yo,
yeah.
You're talking to me. Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah. So it was ACL, but it was pretty bad. Especially because I was like 31, I think, when it happened. And so you're a lot older. And since I'm taller for some reason, I guess like sometimes, like I remember like I had a teammate who was like shorter, and she would just recover like so faster. I don't know if that's like a thing, or if I just made that up in my mind, but.
So you kind of jumped a little bit. So you were 26 when you first got injured.
No, I was 26 when I joined the national team.
Oh, then you got injured at 31.
Yeah, but I think I skipped a few years there, so maybe I wasn't 31.
Yes, it's really hard to imagine.
Anyways, it doesn't matter about my age. I was old, guys. So
it's hard to imagine that you're older than 31. So that's the part that we're all
like, wait, not say my real age. That would be bad. But yeah, so I came back. I made it back. I started in every game at the World Cup, and unfortunately, we only got to the quarterfinals. But it was still the coolest experience. And for me, just to make it back into play was pretty special.
You worked your way back from an injury. That's a lot of people will quit at any point. I know what this feels like to an injury. I've been through my own fair share. And each time I fought my way back, and it's been this idea of, oh, well, you probably will never make it back the same. And I've made it back, and I won a championship. And I made it back. I won a championship in college, won a championship in the NBA after another injury. So I know that good things can come after it, but it doesn't make it any easier when you're going through the hard daily grind of learning how to even move your leg.
And then you read the newspaper articles, what people are saying, and you're just like, oh my, and then you get the social media involved, and you're just like, what am I doing to myself? You have to like cut all that crap out. But yeah, it's not easy.
Was that part of the way you stayed focused, is you had to cut out social media?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think I was just so focused on the task at hand and to being like World Cup, every morning. Tape a piece of paper, World Cup, do something that no one else has done. So that was kind of my
Jeez.
motivation every day.
Yes.
Base. And then, yeah. And then in the World Cup, obviously, I've talked to you about what happened after that. And so that was another really hard, pivotal moment in my life. Falling at the world, slipping, they watered the turf, and which, no, just FYI, no World Cup or a sporting event at that level should be played on turf. That was a big controversy that if it was men, they would not have turf, they would be having grass. But either here nor there, they watered it. I slipped, I fell, and who gets blamed? Me, and became the scapegoat and went into a really severe depression, which I'm still now only getting out of. And what is it? It's 2020. I still struggle with that. Part of it, yes, has to do with my concussions that we found out. But yeah, it's been a rough couple years after that, but I still have to hold on to the fact that I got to do everything I ever wanted to do. And I think we've talked about this, the struggles that athletes go through when they are ending their careers and what's next. And it's a scary thing.
This is the 2012 Olympics.
2012 Olympics and then 2015 World Cup.
So 2015 World Cup, you slip and fall on this turf. And is this the same World Cup where you guys go on to win bronze?
No, that's the Olympics.
Olympics, okay.
Who did the research here?
Say again?
Who did the research here?
Oh, this is a conversation. This is a conversation. We're here to learn. And so no, it's so that's what I kind of want to know about. So you go through this crazy high of winning a medal in the Olympics, and then you go to the World Cup, which you've been looking forward to. You talk about your injury and having this thing on the wall every day, like, yo, I can't wait to go to the Olympics. And then you go there and this thing happens. And it's like, damn, like how do you that's one of the things I want to talk about is mental struggles. We deal with a lot of pressure as athletes, and losses for us. People could just watch the game and their team loses and they're sad, but they wake up the next day and go, but we carry these things because we work so hard to win.
Yeah.
So when these things happen, like it really does turn into depression. I know we lost a 3-1 lead in the finals. My team was the best team that year, the whole year. We never lost 3 games in a row, never. And we get to the finals, all the way to the finals, and all these things start happening, and then we lose. I know what it's like to be in that depression mode. It's a hole that you can't describe. Can you talk to me about your own journey with that?
Sorry if I get emotional.
Sorry for bringing.
No.
But it's something that, yeah, like it's still something that you can feel right now. Us athletes.
Yeah, like just the fact that like I made it back for the World Cup was huge, and I erased a lot of people's doubt, and then to become the scapegoat of us losing, even though we should have scored goals, other things could have happened. I think it takes a toll on any athlete. And even after the last couple games after that, people were scoring own goals and things were happening. So, a lot of people I had a couple other athletes reach out to me and be like, look, this happened to me in this game. I know you saw it. Like, are you okay? And then I'm like, are you okay? Because it happens and it sucks when the blame is placed on you. And I was getting death threats because we were playing in Canada. I mean, the World Cup was in Canada. It's like the biggest thing to ever happen in Canada, basically. And everyone's like, you guys have to win because it's in Canada. And I'm like, yeah. So we did great. I mean, people don't focus on the fact that we barely let any goals in. Literally, we're one of the top teams defensively. And we did great. We checked all of our boxes except for winning, and things happen. That's the nature of sports, and that's the beauty, unfortunately, of sports. Is you never know what's going to happen. And so to be the scapegoat and to walk around the city afterwards and some guy almost came and beat me up on the street.
Damn.
Yeah, we had to have like secure. It's been hard. It was hard. And then the press was not kind. And the fact that you like work so hard to get to that point, that's all out the window. And they just focus on the bad because it's a story. I think I didn't deal with that very well because then after that, they made changes within the team. They're like, you have to get rid of the older players. And so then all of the older players got let go, even though we could still play. I will say that we could still play, but that's the nature of it. And then it was just kind of everything snowballed. And then I was like, I think I just need to be done because when I went to go try out for a team after that, then they were like, well, why aren't you with the national team anymore? Are you still not good? Are you not good enough anymore? And I'm like, well, why don't you just give me a chance? He's like, well, I have one contract for you. I'll give it to you. And then I come to find out that he promised it to somebody else and that he pulled me aside. He's like, I didn't actually think you were going to play well, but you did great. And I should have saved that contract for you, but I lied to you. He's like, okay, cool, dude. And so I think it was just kind of a sign for me that it was like, well, maybe you're just need to be done. And it was really hard for me because I wanted to play a little bit longer. And I kind of went up for the fact it's like, okay, start a family, play a little bit longer. It's hard for women sometimes, to figure out when to end. I just wasn't ready. I mean, just athletes in general, it's hard to say, hey, and we weren't making any money. Yeah, we don't make any money. So it was kind of like, my dad's kind of like, hey, Lauren, like maybe you should get a real job. And I'm like, maybe it's a sign. So I did go through a point where I was at home for a little bit and I really struggled mentally because you're Wisconsin. Wisconsin's the middle of nowhere. It's cold. I was in a rut, didn't have a job, didn't know was up here and then I was like down here. And I'm like, okay, everyone's going to forget about me and everything I did. I'm going to forget about it, and I almost did something stupid because I didn't want to live anymore. So, but luckily I didn't. And I pulled myself out because I'm a strong person, but not a lot of people are strong. So I'm a big mental health advocate. And then I decided to move to LA and said enough is enough and kind of just changed my life around. And now I'm helping other athletes and I'm exactly where I'm meant to be and where I want to be. So sometimes things don't go your way and sometimes they do. But I'll never forget that all the things I accomplished, and never forget that because the good will always outweigh the bad.
That's the thing about nobody will really ever understand. As much as people praise athletes for the amazing things that they accomplish, nobody takes losing and those tough games or trades and all these things that people just take for granted, like, oh, well, this guy gets traded or this guy gets cut. Nobody takes it harder than we do because we put so much work into the game. There's so many people coming for your spot. There's all these different pressures that we deal with. And the emotions are still strong. I know that feeling.
Sorry, because I've talked about this a lot and I haven't cried, so it must be you, Fess.
This is our conversation. This is how we talk.
Yeah.
We have these conversations about this stuff. We're always real about this stuff. Like, yo, I'm going through a tough time, and I can't name or tell you how many times I've had this crazy feeling. I had times after my surgery. I just played in the NBA Finals. Now I had a surgery where I was in a wheelchair for 6 months, and it was a crazy feeling of I couldn't get out of the hole. I had moments where I would just wake up and I would just start crying.
Yeah,
that's didn't understand it. I was like, man, what's going on with my life? Like, where am I going? I feel like I was just in this free fall.
Yeah.
The thing that really saved me, at some point I got some advice, and it was just a reminder of how far I had come through all the negative doubts and all the negativity and the things that I had to go through to get to where I got to. that's where rebuilding the beast came from.
Mhm.
I remember I had this, there was a quote that, it came to me in different ways. But this quote, it says, God gave you this mountain so that you can show others that it can be moved.
Love it.
And it was so powerful for me at the time that I heard it, because I was just, you talk about not wanting to live anymore. I was there. There is so much that you just fight for something so much that when you lose it, it's like I'm worthless. Like what is this about? And it changed that perspective for me to, now there is this deep hole. I'm the only person that can get out of it. And it gave me this responsibility to figure it out. You're
Yeah.
here, you can figure it out. You can rebuild this thing that you lost, but you have to be determined to do it. And so
Mhm.
now it's like, I am really, really determined. What was the thing that helped you on your path? Did somebody come grab you? Did you talk to somebody? How did you get through it?
I think what helps is talking to other athletes. Like, I know that I shared this story with you and it helped a lot. And I think it's just like really latching on to good people in your life that are always going to uplift you in the daily, just so that it's a good reminder that every day you wake up, it's with a smile and positivity, which doesn't happen every day. And we know that. But it's just surrounding yourself with good people is really important. Also, just I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of just kind of like getting into my own zone and waking up and writing what I'm grateful for each day.
Man, that
Um,
gratitude, works, right?
it does, and I think, I'll go on walks and just kind of just be present for a little bit and just breathe. I think we just forget to breathe with all this chaos going on. And yeah, I mean, I just think everyone's got to find something that works for them. I think it's me just realizing every day is a gift. And I think really putting myself into the mix of helping other athletes and talking to our youth about it, making sure they're okay, is something that's really kind of helped me. And, I was diagnosed with a lot of stuff with my concussions. And I think that's part of the depression was part of that. And also just the feeling sad every day was because of that as well. But regardless of concussions or not, I think you just have to find what works for you. And I think for me, I just like helping other people and just telling myself that you're a badass beast every day, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's important.
We don't know much about concussions, because most of the time we hear about it from football players. So
Yeah.
here from a soccer player and also from a female soccer player, um, what does that look like? How does that affect your daily life
Yeah.
or
I mean, if you first of all, let me just say this. If you watch female soccer players, we're hardcore, more hardcore than those boys. Um, so there's a lot of head-to-head action in women's soccer. Women's soccer is crazy. It's very physical. And yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to link up with somebody out in LA here that the Amen clinics where they were like, "Hey, let's take a look at your brain," and my brain basically looked like a football player's brain because I thought I was having early onset dementia because I woke up and I was like not remembering things and I was just crying randomly, like would just be like sitting in my car and start crying. I was like, "What is wrong with me?" And I was a little scared. I was being very forgetful, which I'm usually not, and then I did the assessment and basically they were like, "Hey, like this is your brain. This is all the bad stuff that's going on. The blood flow is not going here, blah, blah, blah. All the divots." And I'm like, "Cool." So I did a lot of like the hyperbaric light therapy type training to kind of heal it. And then COVID hit. So I thought I was okay for a while, but then I think because I didn't finish my treatment, it kind of like went off a little bit during the time I was alone, and or that could just be a mix of it being COVID. But yeah, I mean, concussions are a real thing, and that's why I'm working to hopefully change the concussion protocol as well in sports, because a lot of if I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but a lot of people just are like, "Oh, you're okay," and you're not really okay. So we just have to be more mindful of that stuff.
you can't see it, so people can't understand. You're the only person that can understand this.
I
I
have a
just
couple.
wanted to know about, I want to know about, you're an advocate for women.
Yeah,
Obviously, women and men, the women don't get the same attention as men. As a result, they also don't get the same pay. I know that you're an
yeah.
advocate for women getting equal pay and getting. So how can you talk to me a little bit about that part and that journey?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people realize how much work we do and how much more the men make than we do. And people always want to say ticket sales, it's this and this, but people don't realize that we actually do make more ticket sales than men on some teams. So some of these people's arguments is quite laughable because they have absolutely no idea. My salary was combined with the national team and with the pro team, which I think is completely unfair, but it's either here nor there. You just take what you're grateful for. I'm grateful for anything. So you just take it. I think because we were trying to build something, so we were all in it together. There was a lot of things that was taken away from us that we should have got paid for that we had to not complain about. Um, and basically we were just kind of said like you're not gonna be on this team if you say anything. So it's kind of crazy. And we don't
Frustrating?
really have like what?
Is that frustrating? Like that.
It's extremely frustrating because I we are literally working from like 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. like nonstop. You're putting your body on the line every day. I mean, yes, I'm grateful because it's a once in a life opportunity. Yes, I'm happy because I made it and I'm there. But I would also like to survive and have a retirement. We don't have anything set up for retirement like you guys do for the NBA. I would love to have that set in place for these girls. We don't get sponsorships the way that you guys do. And even if we do, it's very minimal money unless you're on the USA team in every right. So they should get what they deserve. But there's also a million amazing, talented women that deserve sponsorships. We didn't get ticket sales, but the guys did. The guys were always gifted stuff. We were making $10 a day for per diem and camp, and that would be our paycheck. And look, I love Canada soccer. I'm grateful for everything. I just wanted to see change. I mean, I know that there's limited resources on a lot of these in these countries, but we are making strides every day. What I do not appreciate is the people that don't understand telling us that we don't deserve it and that nobody watches us and the things and chauvinistic things they say to us because I bet you if we played on one, I would crush you, to be honest. So,
Definitely very
yeah,
frustrating. I've
I
seen.
think they just I think people just need to give some women more respect, and that's what I'm always trying to hope that happens, and that's what I'm always trying to be an advocate for. And I try to be an advocate for every female sport, WNBA, hockey, everything. So if you're a listener out there, just start giving some women respect because they work their butts off. We work from I don't know, people don't understand, so it's hard to. I could say a lot more, but I won't.
I've seen
I
you
just.
work. I've seen you work out. I've seen you train. I know how hard you work. So I don't doubt that part at all. So yeah, I support you on that. I think the women do work
And we
extremely.
don't get agents to work. We have to work our own deals too, which is ridiculous. And then agents take advantage of a lot of these players. So I'm actually becoming a FIFA agent because I want people to feel comfortable talking to a woman. I'm not saying all agents are corrupt, but the majority of them are because we are not educated in the way to understand how it's supposed to work.
None of us are. You have to. You almost even for
You have
you
to
have to
be
be a
very
lawyer
careful.
to do that. So yeah, we're not. We're educated in our sport. That's what we put all our time into.
So I know that the pay has gotten better. It's increased in the league. We weren't allowed to go overseas and play because we were building the NWSL. Now a lot of those players are going over and they're making bank with those teams. So I am happy to see that there is progression. but we need
I
more, especially in the other countries.
I agree there. One last question: when we think of a female soccer player, a female athlete, a lot of people think of there's this prejudice of the more manly woman. You know, you're attractive and you're feminine. Were you ever confronted with that stereotype, or
Oh,
even more, that people maybe underestimate you and your athleticism because of your looks?
yeah, I think it's hard because people do associate, female athletics with being very manly. And then when you're not very manly, they don't really know what to do. And then you're too much, too sexual, or you shouldn't be doing this. And I remember someone had posted a bikini shot. It wasn't me, but it was like somebody else. And it was a tennis player. I think it was Naomi. And she got so much. And she's like, what? I'm not allowed to be sexy. I'm not allowed to be beautiful. I'm not allowed to be a woman. Like, and there's just such a double-edged sword with what, like you're too manly, or you're too pretty, or you're too this and you're too that. And I think that just needs to change all around. Not even if you're just an athlete, but like in general. But I mean, that's a stereotype that's always just gonna, I think, always gonna be there for us as females for being. But like, yeah, people always underestimate. They're like, "Oh, you're a blonde bimbo." I'm like, "Excuse me. First of all, I'm not a bimbo. I'm extremely intelligent, and I will crush you." And then when you do, they shake your hand after, and they're like, "Okay, respect."
Get him low.
So yeah, look. I will talk back, and I will take those challenges because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. So just, if you're a listener out there, just start respecting people. It doesn't matter if they're female, male, whatever, and just like appreciate the craft and all the hard work that they do, because you're watching them, like you're watching sports. And so start respecting them a little bit more. Even just the hate you see, even for male athletes too. It's just people forget we're human.
What advice would you give young women, young athletes, but just also the everyday girl?
I think what I always say to kids, first and foremost, no matter if you're male or female, always have fun with what you're doing, no matter what it is. I think if you're not having fun, because I see a lot of kids get pressured into doing sports and all this stuff, and pushed even though they're tired. Just have fun and remember, and just be your own advocate and always believe in yourself. I know that's so cliche to say, but it's so true, because sports is a very lonely world, because you have to be selfish, and I think we forget to believe in ourselves, even though you're surrounding yourself with people to lift you up and to help you. If you don't believe in yourself mentally, like, you're never going to make it to that level that you want to make it to. So I think that self-belief is so huge. Like, as I said, the self-talk, I know it sounds weird to you guys, but it works. Every morning telling yourself you're going to crush the day, and having that mindset throughout the day in anything that you do, I think is very vital.
Lo, thank you. Thank you,
No
Lauren. This
problem.
story is incredible. And there's so much more. Like you said, we could talk for hours about this stuff and your life in general. But you are a businesswoman now. You gotta go handle your stuff. So thank you
Yeah.
for joining us on Rebuilding the Beast. Your story is
Well,
amazing.
thanks for having me. I think you are amazing, and just keep doing what you're doing, and sharing these stories, I think, is going to help a lot of people. So I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. You've been part of this journey with me too. So I appreciate you. All right, go do what you gotta do. I appreciate
Okay.
you tuning in.